Marine reacts to the life-changing journey of being selected as a Gurkha by Forces News. As always, I'm going to be leaving a link to the original video channel down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. Before I start talking about anything else, just know that my neighbors have not been quiet for quite a bit of time, so I'm trying to record this right now that they haven't made some noise for about 20 minutes, so hopefully they don't make too much of any noise going forward. So Gurkhas, quick thing you want to know about them. First time I've ever heard about them is from the Deadliest Warrior. I've heard that they're from Nepal. They're the ones that really sport the kukri knife. They get selected by the British, like the best of the best, to go over there and go train for them. And being at high elevations in Nepal, that they have really good cardio and they're able to huff a lot of fucking weight, or a metric shit ton, as the Marines say. That's as far as much as I know at this point. They do say being selected as a Gurkha. Now, I'm not sure if this video is going to focus on like kind of their version of a boot camp, or as to what they need to do before they even start training. It seems like before they start training, because this is selected. But obviously for the Marine Corps, real quick, or for most branches, you only really got to do whatever their PFT would be. For us, it was pull-ups. We had to do, I think, a minimum 3. We had to run that 1.5 miles at a certain time. And then we had to do a certain amount of crunches, which is only half the amount of what you actually have to do in the fleet. And obviously those scores have changed within the past few years. And if you could do that and then go to MEPS, which is like a whole day process, and you all have also taken the ASVAB, it's not that hard to join in terms of physicality, but it's kind of just of a long process because of like a lot of paperwork and stuff. So curious to see what kind of parallels I can kind of draw from this, and just see kind of what's similar, what's different. So let's go ahead and get to the actual video. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Hit the notification bell right there. And you get notified every time I do upload. Sometimes I'll play twice a day. Now I'm working on them in the evenings and then releasing them early the next day. That way when you all wake up, you have a fresh new video first thing in the morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what it takes to be selected to be a Gurkha.
This is Gurkha class of 2019. "400 trainee soldiers, the biggest intake to set foot in the UK in over 30 years. Most are just teenagers, and their journey began thousands of miles from here."
Okay, so these are the ones who've already passed selection, and now they can get to go to the actual boot camp. For us, when we got there, well, the initial thing is that when you get to MCRD or Paris Island, if you're East or West Coast, that you're gonna, when you're on those buses, your head is down. You're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to not really do anything. Just keep your head down until you get there. Now, I had gotten there actually a week. Well, I was supposed to go there in 6 months. I ended up getting switched to within a month, and then it ended up being like, "Hey, can you go next week?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." So me and someone else got there because they had gotten 2 guys sent back due to some reason. I think it was a weight issue or something happened, but we got a little special treatment. We got picked up in a van the same night that we got there. Kind of same thing. Keep your head down. We got there, and then we got a little extra special treatment when we got there, just because it was just 2 of us, and we had like 3 or 4 DIs when we actually got there. But yeah, we definitely weren't allowed to sleep in there either.
Nepal. It remains one of the world's poorest and least developed countries, and for 200 years the British Army have recruited some of its strongest young men with the blessing of the Nepalese. Every year 10,000 apply to join, pledging to fight and potentially die for a country and a queen on the other side of the world. It's a friendship like no other, a British Foreign Legion over 200 years old. With the UK's crisis in recruitment, we need them more than ever. But how do you find the very best Gurkhas? How do the British Army protect them from the corruption so rife in Nepal? And once in, is it all they dreamed of?
Gurkha! Are those woolly pulleys? We actually, I mean, those look almost exactly the same. I mean, except for the collared shirt that they have underneath. But I mean, essentially, we were there on duty. And they also looks. What is this? Is that looks like the? It's a little blurry, but that looks like the belt that we wear as well. Yeah, I mean, as far as they said that, I also saw that they were very. They looked pretty well in shape, although I couldn't tell how physically they looked too well because of the clothing. But I mean, some people coming into the Marines, man, just barely making it. There's a lot of the fat people essentially, but or they call them fat bodies, but as soon as they get there, man, you lose a lot of weight and you actually get in incredible shape because you do a lot of running, you do a lot of cardio based movements and workouts, and also just working out throughout the day. We do a lot of pull ups. I mean, I got there not being able to do too much, and then I ended up leaving with about 17 or 18 was my max at that time, and I lost like 30 pounds in 3 months. So, also when they mentioned about people thinking like, or not necessarily thinking in the way that like why would they want to go fight for another country like that, but if you think about it the way they said, by it being one of the more poor undeveloped countries and that fact that it's pretty corrupt there, that for the majority of them they might not come from a really good background, and this might be their one-way ticket to actually have a stepping stone for a better life. And obviously that happens in the Marine Corps as well, where I've had friends who were homeless for quite a bit of time, and they were barely in their like late teens, and they ended up joining. There's a couple people that I knew that were from the country, was there's not a whole lot of opportunity to do a whole lot, and then the military gave them this chance to kind of have like a stepping stone.
Company.
The first stage of selection for the British Army takes place each year in September, one in the west of Nepal in Pokhara and one in the east, here in hot, sticky Dharam. Young men from all around get up in the early hours and travel miles to be here for a chance of a job in the British Army.
Today we got one hilly district, that's Dankuta, and we got 5 Tarai districts. Normally they're farming background, especially in Tarai district, they're farming backgrounds, and hilly district also farming background. But nowadays most of the boys from the hills do come down to the cities, near the cities, for a better education, better life, or probably better facilities as well. Yeah.
This year, the recruiting campaign was bigger than ever before. They advertised on every one of Nepal's 72 radio stations, and the recruiting officers, retired Gurkhas known as Gulawallas, travelled to all corners of the country, gathering young men together on football pitches, tennis courts and cafes. They modernised their website. Potential recruits, known as PRs, could even email Deputy Head of Recruiting Major Sandy Nightingale personally. And they did.
I do get quite a few emails from PRs asking some quite various questions, from are my teeth okay with photographic evidence to can women join this year? What we're trying to do is dispel the myth that only certain Nepalis can join the British Army. It's still amazing to me that people think it's only certain castes, people think that you have to be rich, people think all kinds of things that are all wrong. We will take anyone who's good enough. We make sure there's a British officer on every single stand as well, just so no one could think, oh, I'm a Gurung, he's a Rai, maybe he's going to give me a worse mark.
There are 125 castes or ethnic groups throughout Nepal, and historically, Gurkhas came from just 4 of these groups. Over the years, the army has succeeded in reaching more diverse sectors of society, in part thanks to its dedicated team of Gulawallas who go out in tireless search of the best young men. This year's newest and most baby Gulawalla, aged just 45, made a dramatic entrance, bringing in record numbers from the east.
Now, the part about they said that it doesn't really matter where you come from, like high, low, you're going to get treated the same, because I don't know what kind of MOS or what kind of job that they would have in their army. I would assume infantry, because that's kind of the light I've always seen them in. And if they did, obviously you're going to want the best of the best. And so I really like that that's the mentality. Like, hey, if you're good, doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, I want you on my team type deal.
Wow, I'm really enjoying my job. Yes, sir. Because I want to do something for my countries, the British Army, everybody know in the world, this is one of the best army in the world.
Due to the searing heat, the 800-metre run has become the first test of the day, and the locals have turned out to cheer the boys on. Or perhaps eye up the competition.
Stand by. Go!
We should do an 800-meter run as well. We do it in boots and utes for our safety, but obviously that's something that you're going to do while as soon as you get to the fleet. Or actually, we do it in boot camp, and SOI or MCT, depending on which school you go to, depending on your job.
With the futures of so many potential recruits resting on the selection process, there is no room for human error.
Every single score that's written down gets checked by someone else. And I personally will check every single score of those who are selected. Then the Chief of Staff will check every single score of those who are selected.
Honestly, that's a good thing. And if you're part of the Marine Corps, you fucking know who you are. PFTs, CFTs, everyone, on the majority of them, people fucking lie. I know except for the runtime, because the runtime would be pretty difficult to lie. Because it's 3 miles. I usually would get, the best time I ever got on my 3 mile was like 18:58 for 59. I was like just below 19. I think a perfect score is like 18 minutes, but so it's really hard to cheat on that. But like with crunches, dude, I swear to God, it's like 1, 2, 3, 7, 28, 50, and then it's like, fuck. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. But, I mean, I was pretty fit. I just didn't want to do it because I was going to work out later on in the afternoon. But, yeah, that's a whole nother story. Pull-ups, kind of hard to cheat on that. Although, when you say the score to the person who was counting for you is automatically counting the next person who's jumped on the bar. So now you can kind of make up any score. And I knew for a fact a lot of these motherfuckers were not getting the whole 20 or now 23 pull-ups for their age group. And then in the safety, the ammo cans, the 800-meter run, boots and utes, and the movement under fire, the only one they could really cheat on is the ammo cans. But then again, they had like 3 circling, typically staff sergeants, to make sure everyone's counting right. But obviously, people are still going to cheat on that. It's like, I didn't care as much for me personally, and I know I'm going off on a rant, but I didn't necessarily care if it was the people who I knew who were already fit, because it's like they can do it, and I already know they're fucking working out, like sometimes even twice a day, fucking at the gym. So it's like I really know they can do it, so I didn't really care. But it was the very skinny guys who didn't. There was a couple in the platoon who I knew for a fact were not as strong as they were saying they are, and then the guys who were strong, or who actually did try to do it legitimately, would get sometimes lower scores, and then they would get made fun of. Like, how come you didn't do as much as this guy? It's like, I know for a fact the guy did it. But that's a big tangent. I'm sorry, but I had to get that off my chest. I mean, I've been guilty of it as well, but I knew for a fact that at least I could do it and pass it.
In order to understand fairness, you have to understand Nepali society generally. Nepal is a country where people pay money to get just about everything. And therefore, for us to kind of display ourselves as being free, fair and transparent, we have to go to huge lengths to convince people that that's the case. We'll tell them not to pay money to anyone to get into the British Army.
The first exam is maths.
Similarly, in the exam hall, every question must be unique. By 3 p.m, the test paper will be in the local bazaar, being sold for a few rupees.
Well, writing the papers is extremely difficult. We do keep them under strict lock and key, and then in order to generate those papers, to proofread those papers, to proofread them again and again, because if there are any dramas on the day, it is unfortunately a cohort of young boys who are going to suffer, and we do not want that to happen.
So that kind of seemed like our ASVAB. Ours was done on the computer, and there was only like one guy in the room actually checking us, but theirs looks like obviously a lot stricter.
One focus of this year's campaign has been to filter out potential problems early to avoid wasting recruits' efforts, emotions and money. Major Nightingale has introduced a new test to regional selection. Hyperextending elbows, some call it noodle arm, is an immediate fail, so this is now checked early. Throughout the day, if the recruits fall short on anything, they head straight to the dreaded Chowtari and then home.
These boys will give everything to try and get into the British Army. I'm not saying that a British soldier is not equally motivated to join the British Army, but the difference with these guys is their whole families put pressure on them to join the British Army. If they get into the British Army, their whole family's life will change forever. And that's the context that we're working with. 1456, Nischal.
Definitely makes the end product way more fucking pure. I don't know if I should say pure, but a lot more genuine. Someone actually wanted to be there and wanted to be able to do what they can to not only help themselves, like have a better life, but also their family.
1460, Prajwal.
Yes, sir.
1468, Pradeep Kumar.
Yes, sir.
1470.
For some of today's young men, the news is devastating.
1499, Sugam.
Yes, sir.
1500, Sunil.
The recruiting staff are very protective of them. They won't allow anyone to speak to the potential recruits. Today is too important. The chosen few will be invited back to selection in January, where they'll compete for one of just a few hundred places. Only 4% of the 10,000 applicants will make it. Gurkhas have been part of the British military for over 200 years, ever since the Anglo-Nepalese War, when the British were so impressed by the fighting skills of their enemy, they struck a deal to recruit them when the war was over. Since then, they've become one of the most feared units of the British forces and fought in every major conflict. The politest of soldiers, the most ferocious of fighters. Can today's recruits uphold a reputation?
That was a 240 before the one before this little scene. It looked like it was missing a pin that holds the fucking trigger on. Oh, I forgot my fucking pieces. But it looks like it was missing a pin.
Centuries old. South of the Himalayas and west of Kathmandu lies Pokhara, Nepal's second largest city.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've landed at Bombay Airport. Thank you for flying with Delhi Airlines. Namaste.
It's the gateway to the Annapurna mountain range, a favourite spot for trekkers. But it's also home to final selection for the British Gurkhas. It's here that the recruiting team must choose once and for all who will become the future Nepali warriors. They've already been selected as the best of the best from their regions. Now they must undergo even more rigorous tests, not least of which is the infamous Doko race. The race involves running up a mountain in the Himalayan foothills with 25 kilos of sand in a basket strapped around the forehead.
It is our identity as a Gurkha and carry a Doko. Like we got the British Elite Force, like the Para, they got their own specific training. Like the commandos, they have got their own selection, and this is unique for the Gurkhas.
The day before, the sand is meticulously weighed and the Doko baskets carefully laid out. Each recruit must prepare his own.
In case of raining, they are covering their blanket by plastic. In case of rain, they will be heavier than usual weight.
And why the blanket?
Look at that shit. The teamwork right there. It makes life so much easier. And also, real quick, I can really tell right now why their endurance is so good. Just because of the elevation that they're at and the constant training in that environment, it's really going to help your cardio or endurance. One thing I would be worried about is that the way the sand is going into that bag, and that it looks a lot smaller than the actual basket. You got to really make sure that thing is tight and it's not like wobbling around inside your. I'm gonna just call it a pack. It's not wobbling inside your pack because that's just gonna create a whole lot of other issues as soon as you get going.
A blanket because this one is quite rough, so they may scratch their skin at their backside.
How hard is the Doko race?
It is very hard, very hard.
The Doko race was only introduced in 1989. Before that, most of the young men grew up in the mountains and did this daily. There was no need for a test. At 5:45 a.m, the potential recruits leave camp, gather their...
Let me rewind that just a little bit to this side. So you see how there's like gaps right here? Like a little bit of a gap here? This guy had his stuff way more tighter. This guy looks tighter. That's gonna make a big difference, especially when you're moving. Also the straps, dude. Those straps, I mean, they said 25 kilos, so that's about, what, 58, 60 pounds, roughly? That shit's gonna dig into your fucking shoulder, man. That shit fucking hurts.
5:45 a.m. the potential recruits leave camp, gather their Doko baskets, and when enough light has risen,
hello, finishing point, this is start point, over.
The race begins.
Yes, sir. Okay, group number 1. Blue, figure 34, stand by, go!
It is tough as a nature of the event because it is uphill from start to the end. So my tips for the boys is do not give up. Keep going and never look up. If you look up, obviously, your weight pull you towards the ground and pull you back. So always bend down and keep going up.
This last run was quite dodgy because of the weather. It rained the whole night and boys were wet this morning and their Doko was wet. The terrain itself is difficult, uphill, the steps and stones and boulders and the puddles.
No time for water stops. The recruits must complete the course in 46 minutes. If they fail, they leave selection immediately. At the top, it's time.
Now, I know this isn't their boot camp yet. This is just the selection process to be able to go there. In boot camp for the Marine Corps, they give you quite a bit of chances. It's really hard to get out unless you're absolutely just refusing to trade, you're having suicidal thoughts, etc. It's not typically if you can't do this, they'll try to get you to pass with whatever it is. Say, for example, phone call. If not, you might just get recycled back a week to a different company. But holy shit, man, they're actually cooking up that mountain pretty quickly.
Time for a well-earned breakfast and relief at last. The descent is less painful, the boys singing as they go. Selection is almost complete. It won't be long now until they know what their future will hold. It's the night before results day for the potential recruits, or PRs, from the west of Nepal. And to ease the nerves, the recruiting staff have suggested they put on a show. Western Idol delights the judging panel. It's clear that West's got talent. The next morning, it's a different story. The young men must now say their goodbyes. If successful, they're unlikely to see their newfound friends again. Many will be heading home. In a few moments' time, they'll be invited into a room one by one and told their fate.
We see a massive spectrum of Nepali society. We have people from very, very poor backgrounds who are orphans. You see everything in that room, which is why we don't allow you guys to go in there. It means so much to them to get in because a lot of them might have gambled everything on this. It's quite a raw environment, actually.
Hard for you emotionally?
Yeah, well, I think everyone, really. We are obviously emotionally invested. It's impossible not to be.
The minutes tick by painfully. The staff of Gurkha Company from Catterick survey from above. If the recruits are successful, they will bound up the stairs at 1,000,000 miles an hour before anyone can change their minds. There, they will become part of the British Army, and it's over to Gurkha Company to turn them into soldiers. Amongst the candidates is 20-year-old Madhav Karki. This is his fourth and final attempt and his last chance to get in before he turns 21 and can no longer apply.
21? Oh my god. Dude, they're really going for the cream of the crop here. Fucking Marine Corps is 28, and I think that's the youngest age out of all the other branches. Correct me though if I'm wrong. And so this is his fourth time. This is his last time before he turns 21. He can't do it anymore. Bro, I can't even imagine the fucking amount of pressure that would be. Hell, I joined when I was 20 as well, I believe. 20, almost turning 21. Because I ended up turning 21 in fucking SOI. And we were in the we were in the last couple of weeks. We were in a mountain town. We were doing some training. I think it was the first time we were actually using MVGs.
Everyone is nervous. Outside the gate, the families wait, willing their sons not to appear through the railings. For those who've been unsuccessful, there is next year, if they are under 21 and can afford to make this journey again. If not, life will have to be very different. As Madhav Karki appears through the door, it looks to be good news.
I'm feeling very excited, and I'm feeling like I'm in the moon. So it's my dream became true. So I'm feeling very happy. No one in my family, they are in the army. I'm the first guy in the British Army right now.
You must feel so proud.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
You're in the British Army, how does it feel?
It's my happiest moment of my life.
Is it really?
Yes. It's my dream come true, ma'am.
Have you tried before?
Yes, ma'am. This is my second dream, ma'am.
And you remember what it felt like last year, so this must be so special.
Yes, I'm very happy, ma'am.
Hello, Dai.
The first thing the boys are allowed to do is phone home.
We give the boys 4 phone calls throughout the selection process. So after each stage, so after the medical, after the physical, after the education, and when they're selected, they get a phone call. And that's basically so their parents hear from them first, so no one else can sort of play games and say, oh, your son's nearly there, but I'll get him in if you give me some money. So it's to prevent that kind of thing. And of course, it's nice that their parents hear them first. It's always a little bit sad when the parents don't pick up and they're waiting agonizingly for their parents to answer the phone.
When you get to boot camp in the Marine Corps, you actually have to call as well, and there's like a little script. I'm pretty sure you've all seen the boxes and the phones in them. Now, my parents didn't answer either. I ended up calling my recruiter just because they told me to call someone. So I should honestly just pretend like I did, but you can really see how proud they are right now for actually just making it. And they haven't even actually started the training. They're barely going because they just got selected. They haven't even started the actual boot camp. So, I mean, I'm excited for them even right now.
Hello, Mama.
I just called my father. He's just crying on the other side of phone. They're so happy. I know.
With their new recruits assembled, Gurkha Company waste no time. The boys' own clothes will now be sent back to their families. They'll need a whole new wardrobe in the British Army.
They have to get all their kit and equipment, so it's like a big Christmas day. So as you can see on the table, they are the Christmas father, and then they are getting a bunch of bag. We don't know who's gonna be selected, and we don't know the sizes. So now we'll take them to the room, and then if there's a big or small, we try to sort it out within the group.
So it's like a big swapping session.
Yes.
And inevitably all the big guys will end up with a small kit.
Yeah, it will happen, yeah.
Next up, a trip to the barber and the tailor.
Looks like the barber type scenario is synonymous, at least over in Nepal, because I'm pretty sure you saw him wince, right? Like a little bit of pain. Can't tell you how many times at MCRD this dude would skull fuck my damn head with those cutters. I swear to God, every time I at least got one cut on my head. And then imagine that next week I'm gonna go through that thing again. I mean, I understand there's a lot of people going through there and they got to do it quick, they got to do it fast, and it's like, can you not cut my head? I swear to God, the haircuts get worse up until you get to the actual, at least in my experience, SOY, at least for me, they actually take their time.
40. You feel like you are a part of our army. Without wearing these suits, you're no longer civilian.
What was the hardest part of selection for you?
For me, it was a 2400 meter running race, BFT, because since I'm a grown up all in the city, I haven't run that much. So for me to pass only, it was very hard. But I have trained hard with my friend. Then I have succeeded and passed.
The new recruits are inoculated, fitted for their Virtus body armour, and measured for their civvy outfits known as the mufti. Camp quickly becomes awash with ironing boards and boot polish, and mirror space is very much at a premium. The recruits keep none of their old belongings. Everything is new.
The Gurkha tie. This is a special tie. You can't find. I don't think you can find it in the markets. We cannot buy it. Yeah, it's a specially designed tie for Gurkhas.
And so it's used only on special occasions, I think.
Shampoo,
soaps. We have our razor kits.
Usually the Mongols don't really grow mustache.
People
Mongolians
don't really have beard or mustache. Like, it's very rare in our case, man.
The exciting I am because son is always better than father because of the time they improve. So this intake will be better than last.
I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's just for the photo, but you know how they only have the top and they're only taking a picture from like the top and up? That's kind of what we did too with our alphas.
Intake straight away. Son is always better than father. My son will be better than me. Straight away.
पछाडी चाहिँ हात राख्दाखेरि चाहिँ तिम्रो चाहिँ मेक स्योर तिम्रो चाहिँ यो पाम चाहिँ क्रस गरेको हुनु पर्यो हुन्छ अनि यहाँनिर चाहिँ कुनै खालको चाहिँ स्लिट हुनु भएन.
One of the most important new challenges this week is drill lesson 1. In a few days' time, they must parade in front of dignitaries and their families, and everyone wants it to be perfect.
Make sure front rank चाहिँ make sure के हो तिमीले चाहिँ 45 डिग्री एंगलमा चाहिँ हेरेको हुनु पर्यो. बुझ्यो? फेरि गोर्खा कम्पनी भन्छु त्यहाँबाट फेरि के हो पोजिसन अफ एटेन्सनमा आउने. Okay. Gurkha company.
It's all about the legacy, our tradition. 15 years ago, I was like them. And then one of my section commander, his name is Captain Butler. I am his legacy. So he teaches me everything, how to survive, how to do the things in army. And I'm doing the same thing to these boys. So maybe after a few years later, so one of these boys will stand in front of this place, and then probably he will say the same. The legacy will go on and on, on and on. But they will always remember us, and we will also remember them.
The recruits have just a week to get to grips with the basics before they fly to the UK. There's a lot to learn, and they'll need their new comrades, their numries, to help them out every step of the way. Instructors from Gurkha Company in Yorkshire's Catterick Garrison await the arrival of their new recruits.
Oh yes, everyone is looking forward for this day.
Because Gurkha Company would have been quite quiet, won't it?
It is, yeah, it is quite quiet when the boys are not in the camp around, and then we just feel lonely when the boys are not in.
It's interesting. I thought the Woolly Polo was only for like certain dress occasions, kind of just a part of the actual everyday uniform. I thought it was just like for time. I mean, for us, the only time we would ever wear is be if it was cold outside or we had duty, and only cold outside if we were doing it like on a Friday for like formation and whatnot. What's it called? Charlie Fridays or Delta Fridays? I don't know, but yeah, only special occasions.
Soon enough, they appear, safe into this foreign land, which from now on will be their home.
It's really unknown area when you come into the UK. When I recall my memories, it's exciting as well as a bit daunting as well. You don't know what's coming up. So a bit excited, and on the other hand, you're away from your families as well. So you've got lots of emotion in your mind going through.
It's been a long journey to get here. Years of training, months of tests, examinations and interviews. But this is only the beginning. They will fight for this country and this queen now, a job that will change their own future and the fortunes of their families.
Alright, let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. Now, I want to say right off the bat, I didn't mention it during the video, that I'm a little jealous of their ties. Ours was just a typical little khaki colored tie that I know for a fact 98% of the Marine Corps never undid it after boot camp, and we would just put it back and put it on. So, their process of getting selected just to start is a lot more difficult, in my opinion, than what we had for the Marine Corps. Now, I'm not saying either or is better in terms of that, but I am saying that if the process of what the Gurkhas do in order to just get to the starting line was implemented in the Marine Corps, it would be you would see a drop in people, mainly because a lot of them would get disqualified. Because sometimes, I mean, I understand that recruiters do have a quota to make. I think it's about two people per recruiter a month from the last time I remembered. So as soon as they get someone who wants to go in, even if they're like very barely passing the very minimum requirements, they're gonna try to get them past that. So that's why you hear a lot of these memes, see these things about recruiters that they're never telling you the whole story. They're only trying to say, quote unquote, what you kind of want to hear, but they're not, I mean, technically lying to you. They're just kind of telling you half truths, which, for my example, I didn't know too much about the Marine Corps. I ended up joining in kind of on a whim, which, granted, I had a lot of shitty ass times and I had a lot of great times. But my thing was, I thought the Marine Corps was only infantry and combat engineer. I thought those were the only two jobs in the whole Marine Corps. I didn't know there was a whole other selection, and I did pretty good on the ASVAB, being out of high school for like what, 2.5 years roughly. And I ended up getting like a high 70, 78, and I didn't know like the minimum for passing was like around 35, somewhere between there. A lot of people who joined infantry were like in the 40 range, and I had gone into 78, and I thought, shit, I got like a C plus in my mind. And the recruiter was like, nah, bro, that's good, man. You want to be infantry? I got you. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So, I mean, I met some of the most incredible people in my life. And just kind of like how I was seeing right now with these guys, they were only, I don't know exactly how long that selection process was. I know for a fact they were at least more than maybe 2 weeks, because 1 week was actually the process of them getting to learn some things before they get there, like things with uniform and all that. And then the other week was probably for the, I believe he said it was the physicals aspect, the education aspect, an examination part when they were checking for like the overextended elbows, and also for the actual Doko run, which I think that's part of the physical. And that Doko run looks like it would be a pain in the ass to do, especially if you're in the very beginning. I was not in the best of shape when I barely went to boot camp, but I definitely got in shape while I was there. And you see that just quick, tight bond in that short amount of time really start happening. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this, especially people in the military, that, and I think this is synonymous with every single branch, that it's going to bring you the best people into your life, but then at the end of the contract, they're going to get pulled apart because you're coming from very many different parts of the country. I mean, I've got friends on the East Coast, Northwest, Southwest, fucking name it. Literally, I at least knew someone from the majority of each state. There was a couple states that I didn't know anybody from, but for the majority. But I'm going off on a long rant. As you can tell, with these more military ones, I definitely have a lot more to talk about, more to say as far as comparing it to what I've been through. Gotta say, man, these Gurkhas are something else, man. It's something about their drive, especially that this might be their only shot at having a decent life. Considering in the beginning when they were saying about Nepal being very corrupt, small opportunities, very poor, and then it's just like, not only when they join and if they do make it, they also get to help their family. So a lot of motivation for them to do this. So, mad respect to them. I'd be curious to see if one of them watched this to kind of see what they think about me, like my beard or what I've said so far throughout the video. But in any case, that's going to go ahead and be it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, really does help me a lot. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like it. It helps me improve the channel. If you're curious to see what's coming up next, check the description down below. You're going to see the list of about 5 videos. Top to bottom is going to be how I view them. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.